You are listening to the People Centric Podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do.
Hey, People Centric leaders. This is Don Harkey, and I was walking downtown today. I was walking to a breakfast with a client of ours, and I was walking downtown. I was thinking about downtown Springfield and where it's going and what it's doing. And if you've been to our downtown in Springfield, it's kind of an unusual downtown. Downtown in Springfield, it doesn't look like a downtown. There's not like really tall buildings. And even though we're a decent sized city, we've got like 170, 180,000 people inside the city proper, and probably a million people if you go to the areas like around surrounding us. Our downtown doesn't quite reflect the size of our community all the time, but it's a cute downtown. There's some old buildings and some cool stuff downtown, but it does the downtown cha-cha. I call it the downtown cha-cha. 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. And our office has been downtown for a long time to support the community. And I was thinking a little bit about conversations I've had with people recently who say, why not downtown? What's the problem with downtown? And one of the number one things that comes up is parking. There's not enough parking downtown. Parking is a big problem downtown. Now, I'm going to kick this out to our team here who are on. And so first of all, Philip, you live and work downtown. You frequent downtown on weekends and stuff because you do like the art walks and things like that downtown. Is parking an issue downtown, Philip?
Our joke, we always say, if you can parallel park, it's not an issue.
That's true.
I think we were saying it's perception a lot. I would say, no, parking is not an issue. You just got to know where to go, like anywhere in the world. But no, we have plenty of parking, plenty of amazing things to do downtown.
Plenty of amazing things to do downtown. Now, do we also have Diana, who's on here? Now, Diana used to live in Springfield, lived in Springfield for a long time. You lived close to the downtown area.
I did.
And worked down close to downtown area. And now you live out west, in the Washington area. Is parking an issue in downtown Springfield?
Okay, so it's been about 5 years since I lived in Springfield, but when I lived there, I never had an issue parking. If it was a busy, event or something downtown, they have multiple parking garages that I frequented often. And then I moved to Tacoma, where parking downtown is actually difficult, and you have to pay to park every single place that you go. In downtown Springfield, you don't pay to park. It's just like free parking everywhere. The parking costs in Tacoma and Seattle, guys, to park in Seattle for a baseball game is $180.
Boom.
For parking.
And you're not parking close. You're probably not like right at the
that's
stadium.
like close parking, but still,
Okay.
It's $100 to park kind of far away, It's insane. So I personally don't feel like Springfield has a parking problem. I think they have a perception and a education problem. If they had to live in a city like mine and had to pay for parking every time, or, I don't know, search for hours.
The problem is, can I park right in front of the door I want to walk into for the shop or the meeting I'm about to have? If that is the standard and requirement for parking, then downtown has a challenge. But every downtown would, right? That's not how downtowns work or many places. So I think that's really the difference, right? If I can't see and walk to the door within 5 steps, that's unacceptable.
That's unacceptable.
That's not the solution.
Yeah. So some people are listening right now going, is this an episode on parking downtown? What are we doing right now? No. What we wanted to do is what this made me think about is why are people sometimes stuck on problems and not problem solving, right? And so if you are inside of a business, whether you're frontline or you are an executive or you're a manager in the middle, there's solving problems as part of your day. So what we want to talk about is why do people get lost on problems and not solutions? Why are people not solving those problems? It's really not hard if you take just the conversation that we had just now about parking downtown. The problem isn't that there is a parking problem downtown. There's plenty of places to park. The problem is there is a knowledge problem about where to park. So if people don't go downtown very often, they don't know where to drive to go park in different places. And now there are parking maps that are available in different places. You can go find it, you can download all of that stuff. But like it's not really that hard. I was just walking and thinking like, well, how can we solve that problem? And I thought, what if that on every street corner there was a QR code? And the QR code said, if you are here, just take it said parking and QR code. Just do that. Parking, question mark, QR code. Scan QR code, like quick, scan that QR code, and it would tell you where the parking places are near that corner, right? And then it would say, like, go, if you are really close, because I have been downtown with people who are trying to park, like, where the heck do I park? Like, there's a massive parking garage that's free, that is a block away, that's just right over here. And we'll have to walk for about a minute to get to where we're going, but it's fine. It's right there. But I think there's things like that. So it's not hard to solve some problems that are out there. And we work with enough clients that sometimes we'll hear them bring problems or have employees bring problems back that are not really that big of a problem, right? I was thinking about, we had Bethany on our team, her computer, her USB ports were not working. They weren't working anymore. So Ashley on our team went into problem solving mode. And I was thinking of how grateful I was for Ashley. And I was talking to actually another client of ours this morning about Ashley and what she does. And Ashley, shout out to you. I know you're going to be editing this later. But Ashley, not only didn't just take this and go like, okay, there's two ways she could have responded. Okay, Bethany reports that her USB ports are no longer working on her laptop. Bethany, by the way, tried multiple things to get them to work before reporting the problem to Ashley. Ashley very easily could have turned to Diana and said, Diana, Ashley's computer is not working, or Bethany's computer is not working. What do you want to do? Do you want to get a new one or do you want to repair this one? Now, Diana, I just saw you shake your head. Did you even know?
This is the first I've heard of this.
This is
So
the first you've heard of this. Now, there's 6 people on our team. There's not that many people on our team, and you are the COO,
mhm,
and you did not know that one of our people's computers was not working properly.
that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this will come up in your job performance
I
evaluation
hope it
later.
does. I have lots to say about it.
Lots to say about it. It shouldn't come up, and you shouldn't have to know, right? Because why don't you not know? Why don't you don't seem worried about it? Why are you not worried about it, Diana?
Because my team is taking care of it. They're taking, if they needed something from me, if they could not solve it, if they had to buy a new computer, if they had to take it to tech support or something, then they would be like, hey, here's the solution to the problem. Can I go do that? I have to spend money. Cool.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah,
I don't
great.
need to know yet. They're
And
taking.
they're taking some steps. They're not just coming to you right away going, oh, this didn't work. I haven't tried anything, and I'm just going to try to give it to you and go buy a new computer for me. And then
Yeah.
boom, you drop a couple $1,000s on a new laptop or something, and suddenly like, okay, actually it was just some dust in the USB port, or you were plugged in something that didn't work or something. We know that the team's going to go and troubleshoot stuff. So
Yeah.
first of all, like let's talk a little bit. Can you help people? Everybody wants that. Like everybody that we know that wants other people to go solve their own problems. Can you help non-problem solvers become problem solvers?
I have so many things running through my head right now. I think that you can help non-problem solvers become problem solvers. I think it's just a redirection of the brain. But I also think that most of the time when leaders like myself are brought a problem, I just go and solve it, right? I'm like, oh, okay, thanks for bringing me this problem. I'll figure it out. And so then I'm kind of training people to bring me the problem because I'm going to fix it for them. And so I think the person getting the problem needs to have the mindset of how do I train them to not bring me the problem, but bring me the solution and only bring me the problems they really can't solve.
So you're saying that it's okay not to answer questions sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Are we going to talk about that now? Should we talk about that now?
I mean, well, we got like these millions of listeners right now tuned into us. We might as well bring it up, right? I mean,
Yeah. So I was talking to someone the other day who was saying, I keep getting all these problems. And I told her, I was like, well, that's because you solved them, right? And she said, well, how do I not? Like, how do I teach them to do it? Because I just did it, right? She's like, I just did it. I just took care of things. And then I became the leader because I was just taking care of things. And I feel like people aren't using their brain. And I was like, well, that's because you have sort of trained them that they don't have to. So when people bring you a problem, you can look at them and say, "Oh man, that sucks. What are you going to do next?" And they're going to pause and be like, "Oh man, I didn't expect that," because you have not done that before. But they are capable, competent human beings and they are going to figure it out. The other thing I have asked people before is, if I weren't here, what would you do? It
Oh,
sounds like a jerk question, but it's not. If I weren't here, what would you go do?
yeah, and I like that. It's a tool that, by the way, this is a tool, not a universality that we're giving you, right? There's times when you just answer a question. I have seen managers go too far with this sometimes, and somebody comes to you and say, "Hey, where do we keep the pens? I looked down at the show and I can't find them." It's like, well, if I wasn't here, how would you find the pens? And that's just obnoxious. Like, you don't have to do that. Sometimes just answer the question, right? But if your people are not good problem solvers, then sometimes what you have to do is make them practice problem solving, right? Try to figure stuff out, give it back to your people to be able to solve. Or bring that to me. There's the old adage that I've heard managers say. I was having lunch with or breakfast this morning with Randy Caldwell at Holloway. Give him a shout out. I know he listens to our podcast and his team does too. And he was talking about how he wants his people to bring me solutions, don't just bring me problems. Bring me solutions to things. Now, I would also temper that. Everything that we talk about there's a dial on it, right? We just did an episode on dials and levers, and everything we talk about is a little bit of a dial. Sometimes I think you need to be open to your people saying, I really don't have a solution to this problem and I need to talk through it with you. And then then you can talk to the other person and say, did you just come to me the instant you have this problem and you have no idea what to do and you haven't applied your brain to it? Or have you been working this problem and applying your brain to it and you just need somebody to collaborate with you to solve it, or you're lacking some knowledge to solve it, or what is it? There's a difference between those two things. Somebody does not have to have a total refined solution to bring a problem out. Because I talked to another CEO of a company recently who she said, I've been trained that I don't bring problems, I only bring solutions. And she was struggling sometimes because her team would bring a problem and she wouldn't have an answer. And so she would struggle on her own trying to solve this problem without bringing her team into it. And then she would get stuck on problems and her team would get stuck and frustrated on things with it could have been working on together. So there's a little bit of a not dial on that. But if your people are not solving problems, are not good at it, and they just bring you questions that are really, really obvious to answer, then you probably should dial it up a little bit. I'm going to challenge you to answer the questions.
There's a few leadership groups that I'll ask the question. Usually it's a go-getter in the group. We talk about our communication styles. The go-getters hate group problems because they're like, I figured it out already. It took me 3 minutes. You're all wasting a bunch of time. So sometimes I'll throw the question out to a group and just say, like, how many resources are represented here right now? And usually the accountant's like, oh, thousands of dollars. An hour of executive. You have your whole executive team in a room for an hour. This sounds like the start of a joke. How much money is being spent? And you're like, thousands of dollars. And that means there's thousands of dollars of resources of the brain trust not being in play somewhere else. So I say, like, there's a reason we get together. Why are we together now? And so we could, as a team, all talk about how one person's computer isn't working, or it could go directly to the COO. But I love that example. You're like, this is clearly a problem we don't have to bring to the whole room, to the whole table. And so I think there's that pressure, though. The CEO you mentioned, Don, if they think they have to solve it all before they get to that room, then really all your leadership time is just spent on talking to each other about your solutions you made, and you're probably missing opportunities to talk about the real problems that a lot of you are primed to solve. And I love the example of, at the front end level, I think we've coached with some folks where we'll say, just like, what are the 2 or 3 things you've tried before you came to me? And there's something about making it specific where it's not just like list every single thing you could possibly try, but what have you actually tried? Just to Diana's point, if I wasn't here, kind of the It's a Wonderful Life question, if I wasn't here, what would the world look like? And I think some leaders would say it would look terrible. That's why I love It's a Wonderful Life. That the town is in disarray without me existing. You're like, what if it wasn't? What if someone else stepped up and also took the lead? So to your point, Don, there's different ways where maybe you think, okay, at what level can you help people start to problem solve?
Yeah, that's good. So let's dive in. So that's kind of our role as managers, to help our people to problem solve a little bit more, is to make them do it. Like, don't bail them out when they're not problem solving. Let's help them to problem solve. So let's go through like the process of problem solving. Because I'm sure there's some people that are listening to this saying like, I hate when I go to my manager and they tell me just go solve a problem. Like, how do I approach this? And one of the things that we talked about before we jumped on is that we all think differently. We have very different communication styles. Giving a link to our past podcast episode on communication styles, we talked about the four major types of communication styles. Within those different communication styles, there's very different problem solving methodology that would come out. So I'm kind of curious within, and we happen to have, because there's three of us on this podcast today, we have three different communication styles represented on this podcast. I am very much the whiteboard user. So if you haven't caught that episode, the whiteboard user is the very big picture thinker. Give me a team and a whiteboard, and that's a good day for me. I don't need to know what we're going to talk about. Just give me, it's just ideas, thinking about the future, big picture stuff. Like I love that. We're just going to brainstorm things. That's a good day for me. Diana is an outliner. Diana's making a face right now. She's an outliner. She likes the details. She writes an outline form. She takes notes. You have to-do lists, things like that, right?
Oh, lists upon lists. My brain thinks in lists. When you give me a problem, I'm going to collect all of the lists of problems, right? It's bulleted, clearly defined lists in my brain.
Build to clearly defined list. And then
Yeah.
Philip, your dominant is empathizer. Am I right about that? So you're thinking about the people. Won't someone please think of the children and, and then how they're involved? Who's going to be involved? Is that correct?
It's my primary, and then whiteboarder outliner are tied as like close second. But I love the people. That's it. That's right.
Thinking about the people side of it. So let's talk a little bit about like your approach to problem solving, and let's see if we can find some commonalities on it. So let's start, Philip. We're going to throw this to you. So I'm going to give this to you. We're going to give you a little. I'm giving you just a second to heads up. Think about this. Like when you get a problem, like what's your go-to methodology for solving the problem? What do you think about in terms of what do you go to first when you say, "Wow, we've got this problem. What can we do to solve it?"
I love this question. Yes. It's funny. I am an empathizer in that I think who's involved. So I truly imagine the web or the org chart or all the different people involved, right? Who are the main characters in the story? And then I think, okay, of those main characters, who are the primary stakeholders? What do they need? What do we not get? So one example I think typically, right, that we come across is if communication is a challenge for a team, I'll just think, okay, well, who's ultimately responsible for getting that across? And what are we missing? I also am an outliner and whiteboarder secondary. So then I think like cost, what is the barrier? What are the ingredients I need for success? And I kind of go through the lists of, okay, what's my best solution? And is that viable with the people and the resources I have? If it isn't, then I kind of go through this staccated amount. And then in all that, like, how do I build the buy-in to make it happen? Do I need all the people? Do I need just one person? And kind of build an ingredient list from there.
So there's some really good lessons in that for all of us, right? Because one of the things that, if you haven't picked up on this already in the communication styles, you have a dominant style that you probably follow, but there's something to be learned from every style. And I like that as you think about what stakeholders are involved and how do I get their feedback. I know, Philip, we have lots of conversations about the community. How can we improve the community? And whenever I say something about the community and I complain about it or say, boy, there's an opportunity that's here, Philip usually ask me the same question. It's like, well, have you talked to such and such? Have you talked to such and such? Have you talked to such and such? And the benefit of doing that is a lot of times when you do that, you might learn something you didn't know. Like you might be approaching the problem the wrong way. You might not, the problem may not be as big a problem as you think it is. Or there might already be solutions to the problem that are out there just need to be executed. Maybe you don't have to start from scratch on something. So you learn something from people. So that's good. That's the empathizer's strength in terms of problem solving, right? What's the weakness? Philip? Where do you get stuck on problems as an empathizer? Like what does an empathizer get? Where do you get lost in problem solving?
I think an empathizer could get lost in just really first even saying, is there a problem? And can we clearly articulate that it's a problem? I think an empathizer could get stuck by saying, well, by saying it's a problem, we're going to offend the people who are responsible or who may not know, and we're afraid to hurt people's feelings and thoughts through that. Or on the back end, maybe we come up with a great solution, but then we realize, oof, this might be a little different. This might make us uncomfortable, and I don't want to hurt the people's feelings. And so I think an empathizer doing well, you lean on those things to use as like a tool and a resource, but it doesn't shape or define your overall outcome, right? Feelings are not the most important thing. They're an important part of it, but not the most important.
Yeah. So our accounting process is very, very broken and we've got to fix that. But I love our accountant. Our accountant is so nice. And I just really think that they're really doing good work. And I just don't want to discourage them. I don't really want to poke the bear on things, right? And that would be the risk of the empathizer. That might be where an empathizer gets stuck. So if you're listening, we're going to go through all four styles. Hint, we're going to go through all four of these, and you can hear we're like, okay, well, that's where I can use my strengths and dial up your strengths, and be careful of those challenges, those weaknesses of where to get stuck in the problem solving. So Diana, I mean, you are a premier problem solver. Like you have solved so
Thanks.
many problems in my life and in People Centric's life and all of the different things. Tell me about your outlining approach to solving problems.
Yeah, I love that Philip immediately mentioned the web because that's what my brain is too. It's sort of like, here's the problem, and then I'm like, okay, what is this problem? What are all the places it touches? What is it connected to? How's it going to affect all of these other downstream things? What I'm immediately about, like, what are the costs? I cannot get enough context. So if people want to tell me 25 stories about the thing, I'll listen all day. I love the detail. So keep it coming. And then I'm also, my secondary is go getter. So I really want to move things quickly. I want to get it on and get it done and move it forward. And so I will look at it and just sort of be like, okay, here's all of the things it touches. I can run down this path for a little bit until I hit a barrier. And then I've got to think again. So yeah, I think it's context, detail, web building for me.
I like that the web, and I imagine that your web is a little different from Philip's web, and that they're both webs, but Philip's web is people connected together,
Yeah.
and your
And
web
minor
is stuff
process
connected,
and stuff.
processes
Yeah.
and things, right? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally.
So tell me a little bit about where an outliner gets stuck. Where does an outliner get stuck in problem solving?
Well, I think there is a such thing as too much detail, and there is such thing as too much context. I don't need all of that, right? But I can easily get sucked into doing that over and over. Like, okay, well, let me re-outline that. Oh, I have a new bit of information. Let me re-outline it. Like, oh, I have a new tiny thing that doesn't really matter, but I still need to re-outline it. And then I also think that outliners tend to be perfectionists also, because if it's all fits in this perfect little diagram or outline, then it will be perfect when it is finished, because I can outline the whole thing top to bottom, start to finish, and it will be perfect if we do it exactly this way. And I think perfection is the enemy of done. So I get stuck in that a lot too.
Or change, right? Because change is by
Yeah,
definition not imperfect. So then it's like I'm going to resist the change because it's not perfect. And I like the perfect. I like things in my
yeah,
place.
totally.
Yeah. We just did a strategic planning session with a group that Philip and I were working with. And there were a lot of outliners, but due to the nature of the careers of the people that were in the room, there was a lot of outliners in the room. And we were talking about something new that this organization could do that they do not have people inside the organization to do today. And some of the outliners got totally stuck on that. You could just feel it in the room. They were like, but why are we even talking about that when we don't have anybody on our team that could go do that? And the whiteboarder in me was like, well, because if you decided to go do that, we could go hire somebody to go do that thing. Like you could add somebody to the team. And so that's an interesting place where I think outliners can sometimes get stuck, because it's like they're planning based on the way things are today, not the way things could be in the future. So, well, we can't go build that because we don't have that.
And
We
this
don't have.
might be a good tie to you, but I get stuck in brainstorming. I start to outline all the brainstorm, and we're just answering what could be, not what will be. And when we start saying what could be, I get very overwhelmed by that. So when Don, you're a whiteboarder and you start throwing out all of these amazing ideas, I start running down the path of all of the ideas and I get crazed. So do you want to talk about your style?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a whiteboard user. So I mean that I see like just possibilities. The world is just possibilities around me. Like it's just all a big whiteboard, and we can put anything on that whiteboard. We can use red markers, green markers, black markers. We can write in anything. We can draw pictures, whatever. We can flip the whiteboard around. We can erase it. The decisions we're making are temporary. We could make mistakes and go back and redo it. It's totally okay. So when I walk through downtown in the morning and I'm thinking about like the parking thing, I think, well, why don't we just have QR codes around there? Why don't we have when you press the button to cross the street and it just goes, wait, 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 crossing now open on Walnut Street. And it tells you that. Why doesn't it just tell you, by the way, there's also parking around the corner if you wanted it? Or by the way, did you know that there's a really cool ice cream shop down the street here? Or did you know that the coffee shop down around the corner is open and it's really good? Like I don't know why like that like how do we use that? Those are just ideas that go out. So yeah, I think whiteboard users in terms of problem solvers, we tend to think of lots of solutions because anything's on the table. We can think about new staff, we can think about new companies, we can think about new ways of doing things. That's where I like my whiteboard user. And we're the perfect problem solvers. There's no problems with being a whiteboard user.
Yeah, there are. It's so fun. I got so distracted by that. Yeah, there are a few. There's a few moments I've seen whiteboarders, Don being one of them. There's like a challenge of, I think it's hard to comprehend the outliner's narrow roadways when you're a whiteboarder, right? You're like, you live in such a boxy world. I can't even navigate. Like, what is that? But what I love about a whiteboarder, there's this children's book, and I can't remember it now. It was one of my favorites as a kid where there's this guy that has this crayon or this Crayola, right? And I think it's purple. And like whatever he draws becomes real. And I love to imagine, because it's very true, like that's how Harkey lives. That's how whiteboarders tend to live, right? You're like, I can create it and it's real. And I think the challenge for outliners sometimes, or the go-getters, it's like, well, the go-getter's like, I don't know if I have time to wait around for you to finish drawing out your great idea. Like I'm just gonna start running forward. And an outliner's like, hey, I need more of a plan before we start assuming that this is real. And an empathizer, probably can lean whiteboarder, but it's like, what about the people before we make it so? One of the things you said, though, Don, that I also loved was like helping someone unlock. One thing that you did that we did with this group of a lot of outliners, we just kind of said the same thing multiple times. And it was around the fifth time we kind of floated this whiteboarder idea that the person was like, oh, now I'm getting it, right? Like they're so outlinery. It took them a little while for this cloud of this idea to appear in their world, but they did eventually get there.
Yeah, and I like it. You highlighted too, Philip, like the problem of the whiteboard user is because you can think of anything. Anything is not focused. Anything is not good for action. Like we can solve any of these problems. I was thinking of going back to the example earlier of like Bethany's USB cables, but USB ports weren't working. So then like Ashley's trying to figure out a workaround. So she's looking at different docking stations to use that would plug into the part that is working on her computer, which would have been mine docking station. So she borrowed my docking station and somehow moving the docking station disabled the docking station. We haven't figured that out yet, but my docking station no longer works. So then Ashley bought a new docking station to make that work and all the cords and all the connections that needed to be happened. So I connected that and now my docking station works better than it ever worked before. Like the new docking stations are better than the old docking stations. So that made me think, you know what? Those docking stations are great. Like we have trouble connecting on our TVs in different places. Maybe we should just buy a docking station for every TV that we have, and we could put that out there and we could stick that in. So then I started looking, hey, I'm going to look up what's the prices of all the docking stations, and I'm going to just buy all these docking stations and then put this in all these other places. I'm running too far, everybody. I could see like you could see Diana's face and Philip's face are both like, settle down, settle down. We have technology. That's not even my job,
I
y'all.
was
That's
gonna
not
say, like,
even.
the CEO does not need to be doing that right
It's,
now.
it's a bad thing for you to be working on. Ashley has worked a lot on connecting those things. Ashley's got thoughts and I mean, she's got a plan for it. She's thinking about how we're upgrading our technology. And if I go and I run down that road, then it's going to anti-problem solve. Ashley's going to disengage. Like, okay, why are you trying to solve all these problems? What are you doing with all these different things? So that's the dark side of the whiteboarder is that we over ideate. We get lost in things. And a lot of times we leave those details hanging. Like it's not a problem. That's not a problem. That's not really an issue. And those details might be really, really important. They could be really, really important. So the one that's not represented kind of is because Diana's number two on hers is the go-getter, right? The go-getter is the person that's like fire ready aim. They're just go, 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 go. Where do go-getters thrive in problem solving? How does a go-getter approach a problem?
I mean, technically mine are tied, so it's so hard. I have no gas or brake pedal. I just like go. I do think that I thrive when it's like, oh, it's a short timeline. Cool, I got this. Like let's go get it done. And even if it's a long timeline, my outliner will be like, okay, let's do this part, go get it, and then we'll come back and go get that, and then go get that. And so I feel like we're the speed it up. We don't need to talk about this anymore. I already know about the people. I already know about the stuff. Like I heard the concept, let's go. And so I think we do really well when we're like pushing other people to go or trying to get things done and just go. But I think if I didn't have the outliner, if I was like a go-getter whiteboarder, I would burn the world down around me just getting stuff done. Like
Yeah,
I don't, and nothing
just
would ever
chaos creator, right? Just all
chaos.
the
Yeah.
stuff. Just
Yeah.
create chaos, no order around me. It's all chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
I like that. My favorite go-getter story, as I'm a history person, and I love like the Civil War, the show from the Ken Burns special, which is a classic, right? It's an older one, not the Civil War. That's been around longer, but like the Civil War, the show has been, I think it's 30 something years old now. But there's a story that Shelby Foote shares, and it's about Custer was a young general during the Civil War. You all know the story after the Civil War. That's kind of bad, but he gained some notoriety, and some of the Union generals the whole army was stuck at a river, and they were looking at all of these maps, trying to figure out like where's the best place to ford the river. How deep is this river? Can we get across it? Is it safe? All these other things. And they were all debating this, looking over these maps and debating what they should do, and they were taking too long. And suddenly they hear Custer shout, and he's on his horse out in the middle of the river, and he goes, "It's about this deep right here." Like he just rode his just I'm gonna ride my horse out in the middle of the river, and I'm just gonna show you. And it wasn't that deep, and it wasn't that dangerous. And so then they just followed him across there. So go-getters are good at that. Like I'm just gonna try a thing, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, I'm okay with that. Like go-getters tend to not have permanent solutions either. What's the
But
downside of the
I was
go-getter?
gonna say, but in that story, me personally, I can like run over people, right? We run over people, we run over process, we run over things because we're just like, let's go get it done. In that particular story, bro could have died. Bro could have just like led everyone to their deaths. I don't know. Probably not cool.
Well, and he did. Like in that example, like, years later, 20 years later, he's out, little bighorn. I don't know if you know the story. Custer's like, I'm gonna go after this group, and he's not really thinking. He didn't really like. There were scouts that were like, shouldn't we go scout ahead and see how many there are and what's going to happen? And they're like, nah, let's just do it. Let's just do it. And he ran his 300 troops into thousands and thousands, and they got wiped out. And he did. He literally let everybody that was in his company to death. Like they all died, including himself.
Yeah.
Uh, so go-getters probably could take a beat and plan for a
Take a
second.
minute. Just take a minute, find an outliner, just for half a second, maybe an empathizer, and just like take a breath.
Take a breath. Take a breath. What could happen here that would be bad? What can we do now? And then what can we go get now? And what should we do later? Right? That's the balance of that. So I like going over those four because I think, first of all, if you're listening, whether you're taking our assessment or not, and if you haven't taken our assessment, you can go look at our podcast. There's an episode on communication styles. You can check that out. And I believe the assessment's even in the notes there, and you can even go take the assessment. It's free. No big deal. Just to go take it. And we're not even a market to you, by the way. We ask you for your email so we can send you the results and stuff. Just take it. Just take it. Whatever. It's on us. But even if you don't take the assessment, you probably heard something. You're like, I identify with that. I can identify with Philip. I can identify with Diana. I can identify with Don. I can identify with General Custer. Whoever it is that you can identify with, that's probably you. And hopefully we kind of gave you some ideas of saying, okay, that's where I'm at my best in problem solving. That's where I'm at my worst in problem solving. But I'm going to go back to something that Philip said that I like a lot is if you're dealing with a fairly complicated problem that deals with a lot of different people, asking who could be involved and thinking about that web, the advantage of that web is not also just so you're getting stakeholders involved, but maybe if you are a go-getter, maybe you're adding an empathizer to your team. Maybe you're adding a whiteboard user to your team. Maybe you're adding an empathizer to your team. You're adding the people by working as a team that have the strengths that you don't need. So like Diana and I have been working together for a long time, and I think we do really well at problem solving because we have a cadence. We know Diana knows when to call me and say, okay, we need these ideas. Or I know when to call Diana and say, hey, I'm just thinking about these things. We just did it this week. I threw two totally random off the wall ideas to you. I know you don't remember them, but I know you will when I bring them back up. You'll remember when I bring them back up to you.
Yeah.
I talked about like never mind. It's not
It's not
expectations,
important.
meeting whether you meet your own expectations or other people's expectations or you don't meet those expectations was the idea. And
Yeah.
I just said, hey, Diana, I'm just throwing this out there because this might come back around. I'm just putting this on your radar. And then also I don't do that saying I'm only going to bring it around in a vacuum. I also watch Diana's reaction to it because sometimes I'll bring an idea and Diana's like, that's really good. We should run with that. Let's go do that idea.
Yeah.
And then Diana and I have to think, okay, let's start to champion it. Let's start floating it out to our team and like putting out little bits. And so then the Phillips of the world can jump in and say, that's a really good idea. Have we talked to this person? Have we talked to this person? Here's who we're going to need on our team. And then you can use all of those communication styles, right? It's called partnering for performance. It's looking for people that don't think like you so that you can work with them within solving problems together. And solving problems together is how you build trust on a team. People ask us, we just got a call from a company that wanted us to work with their executive team. And they said, we want you to do an hour-long session on how to build trust on our team. And I told them it actually takes an hour and a half to build trust on your team through an outside session. And I said that kind of jokingly, tongue in cheek, because that's not how you build trust. You build trust by doing the other things right over time. You can't just build trust. You have to do things. You have to fight in battle with each other to solve problems, which makes a good team.
I believe it's an African proverb, but it goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go farther, go together. And I think about that all the time, especially in problem solving, where I'm like, okay, could I solve this problem on my own? Sure. Would it be done? Yeah. Would it be the best version? Probably not. So I love that I get to partner with great people. And even though, Don, your communication style isn't like mine, I love that I get to go to you and be like, hey, I'm toying with this thing. I think I have a solution. And then you name three things. And I'm like, oh my God, your solution's so much better. Like, thank you.
One
That's
of the three things. That's a key, right? Not all three of them. I
true.
usually
Not
name
all
three
three were
things like,
great.
nope, that was the answer.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that
Yeah.
was it. Not
But
all
but
three.
you win on volume, you just keep going.
Yeah, I'm
And
not smart. If you just say enough things, something's right. It's like 1,000 monkeys typing away. Just that's my brain. That's what's happening. Yep.
Like a hot air balloon, you put enough air out there, eventually it's going to flow. It'll get somewhere. There's a retired leader in our community that I went to. It's called an Untethered series that the E Factory puts on here in town. And typically a leader after a long career, they take a year and a half and then they come and do this untethered interview. And I think many of us are waiting for it to get even more untethered. But Dr. Carol Taylor, a longtime educator who has just had a great career, treats people incredibly well, and also executes to the T alongside a great team. She talked about some years she had, and someone asked, how do you define a great leader? And I loved the way she put it. She said, someone who's personally willing. Oh, sorry, I botched that. Someone who is personally humble, but professionally willing. Like personally humble has the professional will. And I think that's a lot of where the problem solving comes in action too. I think if you have a team member who is afraid or unsure, they keep coming to you with what feels like a dumb or a simple question, there's something about their professional willingness. And I would say it could have something to do with how you manage or lead them. If it's your style, if you're a go-getter, it could be because they know you're a go-getter and they're going to avoid not being go-get enough, or like I do it wrong. Or any of your styles. Maybe you love details so much they feel like you've shot down their brainstorming. It could be some of those things. It could be, do they have the information or options or tools in front of them to then just go and solve it themselves? And I think when we hear leaders say, gosh darn it, my team brings way too much to me, and a lot of the time we'll say, well, maybe what are you doing that has them coming to you again and again, that's preventing their professional will or ability to do the thing? Because if they see a problem, they probably want to fix it. So I love the examples we've shared too, whatever the style, like how you approach them, asking more questions. What have you done? What have you tried? Who else have you talked to? Meet with someone, so and so, come back and then talk to me. Maybe you can come up with a solution on your own. But I love that sentiment, right? Humble enough to find options. You might be wrong. You might be the problem for someone else, and then willing to go fix it with them.
Yeah, you're willing to risk it in order to get the biscuit, right? That's another way of saying it. That's pretty good, right? Yeah.
Whisk it for the biscuit.
Whisk it for the
Whisk it.
biscuit. Yeah, that
Whisk it.
works too.
Whisk it. Yeah.
I heard a similar quote yesterday at an event I was at where they said that great leaders do three things. They learn, they unlearn, and they relearn. And I like that a lot because it's kind of like what you're saying. It's what we say about communication. Great communication only happens when you know you might be wrong, and that's why you involve other people and things. So I hope you enjoyed this episode on problem solving because listen, I'm gonna be real with you. This is gonna be a Dawn truth bomb right here. If you are unable to solve problems inside your company, whatever level that you are on, if you're unable to and you get stuck on it, and you get stuck inside your own style and the negative sides of your communication style, and you're unable to solve problems, you are of limited value to your company and your job is in jeopardy. Your future is in jeopardy. Your values in jeopardy. And you don't have to be like that. You can learn how to solve problems better. If you are able to solve problems for a company, your value is higher. Your value is higher, but you want to be even higher value is if you can create a team of problem solvers. That is the most valuable thing in any organization. Any organization that can create a team of problem solvers, any person that can do that, that's the person that's really powerful. That's the most powerful person that's out there in business, in the community, and anything that we look at. Anything that you want to change. That's how you make your best mark on the world, is by not doing it through yourself, but doing it through others. So hope you enjoy this episode. If you have any other ideas for topics, please send them our way. We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us a note. Shoot us a, hey, what's up? We love to hear it. We get to hear from you from now and then, and our team gets excited when we do. So enjoy your day, and we'll catch you next time on the People Centric Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the People Centric Podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic. Until then, be well and lead well.